What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Before we get started, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button.
Thank you, Mr. Chronoson. I'll take the mic from here. I'm Sarah.
I'm Elena.
And I'm Lakitha. And this is our APES documentary. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Have you ever used a non-stick frying pan? What about waterproof mascara? Nail polish? Well, all of these have chemicals. There are a variety of chemicals that make up these items, but most notably, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, aka PFAs, which give these items their value and their shine. PFAs are called forever chemicals because of their extraordinary persistence in the environment and in the human body. Their persistence is due to a unique chemical structure of the PFAs. They are made up of chains of carbon atoms that are bonded to fluorine atoms, one of the strongest in chemistry, and requires a lot of energy to break that bond. This causes PFAs to not easily degrade in nature, lasting for thousands of years. These chemicals might seem like far-off, distant issues that some other heavily polluted area might incur, but actually, they're closer than you think. PFAs are found in myriad common household items like non-stick cookware, grease-resistant food packaging, water-repellent and stain-resistant textiles like carpet, clothing, outdoor gear, and also firefighting foam, especially at airports and military bases. To you, Elena.
PFAs have actually been in existence for over 70 years, since its founding in 1934 by Fritz Schloffer and Otto Schreyer. PFA's first form was polychlorotrifluoroethylene, also known as PCTFE. After Schloffer and Schreyer's findings, the petroleum and pipe maker at the time, M.W. Kellogg, today known as KBR, commercialized PFAs in its earlier form, PCTFE. However, PFAs didn't become popular until about 2 decades after their founding, in the early 1950s. Regardless, as the rights for chemical PCTFEs transferred from industry to industry, it was a precursor to a more common forever chemical known as polytetrafluoroethylene, PTFE, aka Teflon, which was founded in 1938. In 1945, the evolution of PFAs further progressed when Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Code, today known as 3M, adopted a process called the Simons process. In 1945, the Simons process allowed the upscale production of fluorochemicals and various types of PFAs and decrease the risk of explosion or fires in PFA handling. Additionally, perfluorooctanoic acid, also known as PFOA, was introduced to Teflon during this time. This new form of PFA was made to resist heat, oil, stains, grease, and water, and became abundant in stain-resistant carpets and firefighting foam. By the 1960s, PFAs became a prominent household chemical in the everyday products that we use. Today, many people use them in caution. For example, by 1990, DuPont is fined and sued. Because PFAs were a lucrative crop everywhere, DuPont was using their factories to produce PFAs, which did affect a farm downstream of them. And the Environmental Protection Agency saw this case and fined DuPont for failing to report the evidence of harm the company had found because the cows were dying. In January of 2006, the US EPA also initiated the PFOA Stewardship Program, in which the 8 major manufacturing companies committed to reducing PFOA, other long-chain PFCAs, and other related precursors. Since then, manufacturers have been developing replacement technologies, including reformulating longer chain substances or substituting them with non-fluorinated chemicals, alternate technologies, or shorter chain perfluoroalkyl or polyfluorinated substances. Overall, since the evolution of PFAs have expanded and grown to become a part of our daily life, but the EPA still lacks a clear, inclusive definition of what PFAs even are. Its current definition could be excluding thousands of PFAs currently made and used in the US, which then excludes them from regulation. The EPA doesn't have enough data on PFAs' toxic effects or how much is getting into the environment. Moreover, loopholes have allowed companies to get away with not reporting many discharges, even when there are requirements to do so. The chemical industry has a huge influence on the EPA. A revolving door between the chemical industry and federal regulators has been the status quo for years.
Now introducing a new scientific perspective from Dr. Reyes, PhD, and a specialist in respiratory illnesses and PFAs.
Why are scientists so worried about PFAs now?
Because we now know PFAs are everywhere, in our soil, drinking water, and even inside our bodies. And even though companies stopped using some types like PFOA and PFOs, many new PFAs are still in use. These new ones may be just as bad, but we don't have enough long-term data yet.
Can PFAs actually harm people?
Actually, yes. Many studies have linked PFAs to real health problems, even at low levels. We've seen effects like higher cholesterol levels, weaker immune systems, especially in kids because they don't respond to vaccines as well. Thyroid problems, which can mess with energy and mood, also occur. Certain cancers, including kidney and testicular cancer, have also risen too.
How do we even know if we have been exposed?
Well, nearly all Americans have at least some PFAs in their blood. In fact, the CDC tested people from across the US and found PFAs in about 99% of them. You can get exposed by drinking contaminated water, eating fish from polluted lakes, or even just food packaging and household products.
Can PFAs be removed from the body?
Unfortunately, no. PFAs do stay in your body for years, and we don't have a good way to get rid of them yet. That's why reducing exposure is really important.
While some address the concerns of PFAs, others still believe that it's very beneficial to our society. Next up, we have the spokesperson of PureCo, which is a company that still uses PFAs in their everyday products. Can you start by explaining what PureCo makes?
Sure. At PureCo, we make special chemicals that resist heat, oil, water, and stains. They're used in things like nonstick pans, waterproof jackets, food wrappers, and firefighting foam.
A lot of scientists say PFAs are dangerous and stay in the environment forever. What is your company doing about this?
Well, we know there's growing concern about PFAs, but we believe our products are safe when used correctly. They've helped make life more convenient for millions of people. Right now, we're still using PFAs in some of our products, but we are looking towards safer options.
Why not stop using them completely if they are harmful?
The truth is, PFAS are very useful and hard to replace. For example, nothing else works as well in high-performance firefighting foams or some industrial uses. Finding replacements takes time and testing. Also, changing all our equipment and processes would be expensive.
Now featuring our special guest, have you ever heard of PFAs or forever chemicals before?
Yes, I have. In my own APES classes and other research, I know that PFAs are chemicals that exist in all sorts of products and consumer items.
Do you know that PFAs can be found in things like nonstick pans, fast food wrappers, and even drinking water?
Yes, and it's really concerning.
Did you know that PFAs can stay in the environment and our bodies for a very, very long time?
Yes, unfortunately. I have seen the effects in my own animals when they're dissected and you can see many little microplastics.
Have you ever thought about whether your water or food might have chemicals like PFAs in them?
Yes, but I try not to think about it too much.
Now featuring our next special guest, Tracy. Do you think it's possible to live in a truly PFA-free world today?
I really don't think so because the nature of PFAS in general is that it's bioaccumulative in a person's body. So once it's there, it remains there. And even if PFAS aren't implemented into housekeeping products or whatsoever, there's still going to be a population that has the PFAS in them. So really, I don't see the government ever limiting PFAS in these products.
Who do you think should be held responsible for cleaning up PFAS? Companies, the government, or civilians?
I think it should be both the companies and the government, specifically because the companies are the ones making the products with the PFAS in them. And then the government's duty to the people is to protect us from anything harmful. So the government should implement policies and regulations that place or prohibit the companies from implementing such harmful things in our products to make sure that it's alleviated from the rest of the people.
If I told you forever chemicals are in your blood, your water, and maybe even in your popcorn, how would you react?
I would say that this isn't new because in a lot of our food supply, also our water, the government just adds all these unnecessary chemicals in order to preserve the thing for us to eat in the first place. So having these detrimental things in our food supply isn't new.
Now let's talk about the effects that PFAS have on humans and the environment. First up, cholesterol and metabolism. You know, eating junk food might raise your cholesterol, right? Well, PFAS can do it too, even in small amounts. People exposed to PFAS have shown higher LDL cholesterols, which is very concerning. Then there's your immune system. You know, the thing that helps you fight off colds, flus, and related illnesses? Well, PFAS can weaken that too. Studies show that reduced vaccine responses and higher infection risk in people exposed to PFAS. Kids are especially vulnerable because their immune systems are still developing. It's kind of like trying to win a battle with a foam sword. And then we have hormonal disruption. PFAS are suspected to be endocrine disruptors, which means they mess with your hormones. They can mimic or block natural hormones, especially those related to your thyroid. Some women exposed to higher PFA levels have even reported early menopause or irregular cycles. And now, the big one, cancer. Some PFAs, like PFOA, are possibly carcinogenic. Some people living near PFA factories have seen higher rates of kidney and other organ cancers. So while PFAs might not be guaranteed to cause cancer, the risk is real enough that public health experts are sounding the alarm. Now, unfortunately, PFAS don't just chill in your body. They also damage the environment. A huge 2023 study by the U.S. Geological Survey found that about 45% of tap water in the U.S. has at least one type of PFA in it. Now, how exactly does it get there? Think industrial waste, landfill leakage, and even firefighting foam used at airports and military bases. These chemicals soak into the soil, sneak into aquifers, and rise into rivers when it rains. And because PFAS do not break down easily, they can hang around in groundwater for decades. And guess what? PFAS do not stay put. They climb up the food chain. Fish and small marine organisms soak it up, then predators eat those fish, and the PFAS levels go up with each step. This is called biomagnification, and this heavily damages the ecosystem. In fact, in some lakes and rivers, eating just one serving of freshwater fish can be like drinking PFAS-contaminated water for an entire month. At least 17 states have warned people not to eat fish from certain waters just because of PFAS. So yes, PFAS are unfortunately forever, but we don't have to let them stay. Scientists, activists, and even everyday people are working on possible solutions. And now that you know what's really in your water, your fish, and your frying pan, maybe it's time we stop inviting PFAS to the dinner.